this is getting some decorating tips here. I was thinking there was a lot of chocolate wasted because what I did was I basically poured the ganache on the top. Ganache is super simple to make and a nice way to decorate a cake as well. It's 1-to-1 heavy cream, good quality, darker chocolate, bittersweet chocolate maybe. And you just heat up that heavy cream, dump in that chocolate, let it melt a little bit and stir it up. That's all it was. And then I poured it on top to get the drip effect here. But that created a lot of leftover chocolate around the surface and it looked kind of nice for a while, but then it started to crack. So I thought, well, that's a lot of really good quality chocolate. I don't want to waste. So I cut it off and cut off all the area around the cake as smoothly as I could with some good tools that I'll show you in a minute. And I put it in the fridge because I wanted to keep it cold. And I was going to use that to decorate the cake with, like little shavings. So I'm going to get that. So this is just trying to be resourceful and reuse and recycle. I was telling John, because he was in the chocolate cake class last Wednesday, he couldn't believe I still had this cake either. And I said, well, reuse, recycle, right? So, so this is the ganache chocolate after it hardened. So one thing, here's an idea, right? I'm going to show you some simple, quick, easy ways to decorate your cake today as well, besides the piping. And you could just get a little texture on your cake, maybe put some all around it. Make it more fun. And this hardened very quickly, especially if you put it in the fridge. So it wouldn't take long to get this chocolate hardened. So you can do something like that. And maybe a strawberry on top. And maybe some raspberries around the bottom as well. Just showing in the front here. Just a little something. This doesn't require any piping, right? You don't have to get all those tools out. I mean, that's fun too, but if you just want to do something a little more simple with a little bit of color with that red on the raspberries and the red on the top with the strawberry, and you have quite a fancy looking cake, really. So something like this in the store would cost, I don't know, at least $20 around here, maybe even more if you go to a real nice bakery. But our grocery store, I called before class, our grocery store has your real basic plain 9-inch double layer cake for $16. So I can tell you this didn't cost me $16 to make. And I thought that actually didn't seem too bad, but that was a grocery store. So if you go to a really nice bakery, it'll cost at least twice. Those were like $35 when I looked up those. So here's just one very simple way to decorate a cake after you get the cake made, of course. The other thing you could do with the same cake here is I saved a flower top. So you could just, do that. I mean, how fancy does that look? I think that looks pretty nice. So there's a couple ways. This is a real flower. Obviously you'd want to wait till the day of to put your real flowers around your cake. I love using real flowers, especially if you have a bouquet that you're not sure what you're going to do with the rest of it. It's the carnations last really well. And I like to try to decorate my food a little bit with flowers on the plates and stuff before they go bad. It's just a really nice way to reuse those as well. But there, I mean, what a nice, happy, summery looking chocolate cake, right? So sorry, we're not going to get to eat it. It's a little too old for us. Even my kids wouldn't want a week and a half old cake because I made it before last Wednesday. Well, most of it anyway. All right. So then that's that. I was just going to show you that before we get into the rest of the presentation here, because that was something I didn't do last time I did this class. But I thought that was a fun idea. So we're going to go back to the crumb coat. On the slide, anyway, it says crumb coat. So this is already made. It's a homemade 9-inch double layer cake, chocolate. And that's why you can see it almost looks like an Oreo to me, the little speckles, and which I made an Oreo cake. They're very, very good. So this one, does anybody know what a crumb coat is for? What it is?
Keep the cake out of your frosting.
Yeah. Yes. I wish I knew about crumb coats a long time ago. I just, when I first started making cakes, I was just didn't know anything. So this is a lifesaver if you get to do your crumb coats. It does require a little more time, but well worth it because like Amy said, you get your nice layer of frosting real thin, but then your next layer, you won't have to deal with those little speckles of cake that kind of just catch into your frosting, especially if you're doing a white cake with chocolate frosting. It can be a nightmare. So you do a really thin layer of frosting all the way around your buttercream. This is all buttercream or whatever you do, but this is what this is. And then you just get it real thin because you're going to put another layer on top of it. It's just to get all those crumbs, look at all those crumbs, to catch them and put them in their place, basically. Then you want to cool this down, maybe 20 minutes in the fridge, maybe even a day. This has been in the fridge for, I think, a day. I'm losing track of time. So, and that's fine. Because you just want to keep it cool. So it's because if it's a little melty or warm, it's not going to keep its shape as well when you put the other layer on. So now I have my other layer of frosting. This is at room temperature. This is just typical buttercream, no, not a fancy recipe. It's a half a cup of shortening, half a cup of butter, some vanilla, and then powdered sugar, 4 cups of powdered sugar for a batch. So your good old standard buttercream frosting. So I'm just gonna put a bunch on top.
Pam, I've put frosting on cakes that it like crumbled. The cake crumbled. Was it warm? Was that my problem?
It might have been, and if you didn't have a crumb coat, that makes a big difference too. Did the cake keep catching on to your frosting?
Yeah.
Like it just, yeah. Yeah, the temperature can matter, but really the crumb coat is your key. So, all right.
I already sent an email about that scone class.
Okay. Cross fingers, Mary. All right. So I'm gonna just get a nice coat on top first. And I already put a middle layer in here of the buttercream. You could do whatever you want. You could do a, more of a jam layer, whatever filling you want, whatever kind. You could do a chocolate. It's nice though, if you do put a different filling inside your cake, to pipe a nice round circle of frosting, because that will keep the filling inside the cake. So if you have, this is your second layer in between, you want to pipe some frosting, buttercream frosting or whatever frosting right around the edge there, then put your filling in, because that'll keep it from seeping out. Okay, the frosting keeps it like a wall. All right, so I'm gonna get a little more, and then this is just I think they call them offset spatulas. See how it's bent? These are very common in your cake decorating kits, or just you can buy them single as well. They are worth it. What I do like how it makes it easier for certain things, and I'll show you when else to use it in a minute here. I'm just getting a nice basic kind of clumpy layer, because what the key is, this is just a bench scraper. You can buy scrapers or cake icers or whatever that they call them in the stores, depending on the brand and such, to get the smoothness out. You know how they get those really nice smooth, how do they do that icings, or look to the buttercream frosting, almost looks like an icing. That's all it is. And these cake turners, I have here down here. If you do this even one time, it's worth the investment, because again, if you're making your own cake, you're saving your money, and maybe it's worth spending. This was about $10 at the time. And look how much easier it makes it, rather than trying to go all around the cake and trying to turn the cake. These cake turners, and these can be used, at dinner. You can put rolls on them and spin around like those old fashioned Lazy Susans, you might have.
Oh,
So if you have a Lazy Susan, you could use that as well. But this is so nice and easy.
yeah. And it
Yeah.
turns out well. It's nice and smooth.